And a happy good day to you folks. Hope all is going well. You're coming through the course okay. If you have any concerns, let me know. I am checking my email more often, just in case anything goes wrong and I miss your messages. I do appreciate your messages. So I want you to know that I certainly am aware that these messages are sent. Hopefully they're not hidden. Our chapter today is 14, chapter 14, on psychological disorders, otherwise known as abnormal psychology. And there's an entire course on abnormal psychology dealing with psychological disorders. You may ask, okay, what is a psychological disorder? And this is what becomes very interesting. It may depend on what culture you live in. It may depend on what country do you live in. There's a lot of aspects that play into the role of psychological disorder. But I have some interesting names. I have some interesting stats. And like I say, there is a complete course on abnormal psychology because a personality, which we had in the last chapter, and abnormal psychology or psychology disorders are really some cornerstones for psychology. They are the basis and they serve as a foundation for psychology. So starting off here, I have a picture here. You can probably recognize this picture. This is a picture of Barbie. And Barbie has been around for quite some time. I don't know, roughly 50 years or so? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, Barbie has been around for quite some time, and Barbie has been blamed for psychological disorders, particularly eating disorders. Now, there are some individuals that claim no, Barbie has no effect, and other individuals claim Barbie is the cause of these eating disorders. So as we go through this here, like I've said, much has been said about her, and mainly because of her figure and her waist size. And that individuals see this waist size and they think that's the way it should be. Actually, and I don't know who took this survey, I have no idea. I don't know what it's based on. But the estimation was given about 100,000 women in the world have a Barbie doll figure. Now, there was another doll that went along, a male doll, I believe by the name of Ken. Correct me if I'm wrong. And probably very few men have a physique that would be equivalent to Ken's. I mean, I'm pear-shaped. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Now, before we go in to the actual studies of psychology and where some of these aspects are placed, Lee Iacocca, I don't know whether you recall him, not a tremendous businessman. And he delved into areas that were practically unheard of. He had innovative ideas. He worked for Ford. He was responsible for the Pinto and the Mustang, two popular car concepts. Then Chrysler was in financial trouble, and he worked with Chrysler and bailed them out of their financial difficulty. And he also worked on what he called the Mini Max, and that was a small caravan. Now, he also talked to Henry Ford about this when he was at Ford Motor Company. And Henry Ford just shook his head. No way. Get out of here with that. Matter of fact, Henry Ford had fired an individual 6 months previously because that individual felt as though they should be making a small version of the van. Well, we know the success story of the Dodge and Chrysler minivan, but Iacocca was one of the individuals involved in this. He was also one of the individuals involved in acquiring Jeep for the Chrysler Corporation. What is important about this? Not that Lee Iacocca was abnormal. And I'm not quite sure that I'm not going to make any broad statements, so I'm not quite sure. But what Iacocca stated was that his psychology courses, and in particular, abnormal psychology or psychology disorders, were the most important courses that he took in college. Now, you would think that an individual like Lee Iacocca, who was a very innovative and entrepreneur, a businessman who was in businesses, would say, well, this accounting course or that management course, those were important courses that I took. He didn't say that. Lee Iacocca did not say that. What he did state is that his psychology courses, and in particular, abnormal psychology courses, were very important to him in the furtherance of his career. Now, this makes a lot of sense. This is, in a way, it's kind of a no-brainer, because it doesn't make any difference how many business courses you are aware of or have taken, or your expertise in the area of business, if we do not have the psychological aspects that help us with our interaction with others, not going to do us a whole lot of good, folks. It just isn't going to do us. So we need the psychological aspects. Okay, going through this, and I try to keep these videos 10 to 11 minutes, so I'm going to be going through this with some material to cover. 50% of the people report having a mental disorder. We may know someone who's depressed, ADHD, hyperactivity with attention deficit disorder, schizophrenia, anxiety disorder, eating disorder. You know, we may have ourselves experienced some of these to some degree. And so the question is, how many people do you know, how many individuals do you know in your family and friends and so forth that may have a particular disorder? Now, another individual that I'm bringing up here, Lady Gaga. Is she abnormal? This is one of the questions we're going to be asking. Just what is abnormality? Is it abnormality, a statistical difference, or an individual who is atypical? I know an individual who did not attend or wear shoes in the 4 years that she attended college, not even for graduation. She never wore shoes. Was she abnormal? Atypical? You know, these are questions that we can answer. One of the questions, or one of the answers that I have for an individual who has abnormal behaviors, it is a behavior that is severe enough that limits them or hinders them in some way with their daily routine, with their pathway of making a living. There's some hindrance in there. All right, going on now. John Hinckley, we're talking about the insanity defense. Insanity is a legal term. He shot President Reagan. John Hinckley, I believe, does get some type of leave at this time, but he was declared insane. Less than 1% of the people are declared insane. Talking about individuals who are abnormal, here is Marilyn Vos Savant. Highest IQ ever recorded, 228 points. Average is 100. She scored 228. I was kind of unhappy. She beat me by 1 point. No, not really, folks. Okay, so again, what is abnormal? What is the insanity defense? Not being able to control behavior. It could be atypical. It could be statistical difference. It could be the culture. Nonetheless, there's an interference with the daily routine. Now, the types of abnormal behavior that we have would be an anxiety, a phobia. Phobia is considered somewhat of an irrational fear. Agoraphobia is fear of the marketplace, fear of the open spaces. That's their phobia. The number one fear of men, the number one fear was buried alive, being buried alive. The number one fear of women, snakes. Could be. Okay. We have spiders in there too. We have schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a splitting of the thought process. A mood disorder could be a depressed individual, bipolar individual. Then they have a couple of others, cyclothymia and dysthymia, that go along with these. But, there are times when we recognize individuals who are depressed. And depression is kind of an interesting concept because it manifests itself in so many ways. We have dissociative identity disorder. That is multiple personality. And we can get into that a little bit later on, or you can read up on that. And we maybe have seen movies on it, maybe TV programs on it. But the point that I want to make is dissociative identity disorder and schizophrenia are not the same. Schizophrenia is a splitting of the thought process. Dissociative identity disorder involves more than one personality. We have bipolar. We talked about that. It used to be called the manic depressive disorder. And then we have what is called seasonal affective disorder, where individuals become depressed when there isn't sunlight in the cooler northern areas, and it is called SAD. Okay, this is an overview now of the various disorders. I hope that you folks go on and take a course in abnormal psychology so you do get a better grasp of these disorders, because I certainly believe, as Lee Iacocca has stated, that these areas of psychology are very important regardless of the field and area of study that you're going into as far as your career is concerned. Okay, I hope that this helps a little, and we'll be seeing you on the next video.